Hello, my Scrappy friends. It is Jess here from the Scrappy Sisters, and thank you for joining me for a Kitaholic Kits design team layout. So I started this layout with a pre-made Vicky Bouton background, and I fussy cut some of the sentiments out of the garden shop page that's just all sentiments. I didn't have any rhyme or reason with the colours. It was all about what the sentiments actually said. I'm going to be using a photo of my son. It's a 4x6 size photo. Usually I work in 3x4s, but this is just the cutest picture and I wanted it in a larger picture. So it's this, as you can see there now, is a 4x6 photo. And I want to kind of build, I guess, almost like a brick wall coming around across diagonally from the top left to the bottom right around his photo. I'm spacing them a reasonable bit away from each other. I wouldn't probably have naturally chosen to space them this far apart, but I know I want to stitch around some of the words, and to have room to stitch around them, I know I need that extra space. So I am, it was almost like forcing myself to spread them out a little bit more than I would have liked. So I am doing that now. I did divide, I happened to cut an even number, so I did divide them in half. That's not neither here nor there. There's no real necessity for that. You won't be able to tell that they're exactly the same number. In fact, sometimes having an uneven number might have looked nicer. But in this case, because there's so many different varying sizes and the amount of words, you don't really notice. All I'm being careful about here is to make sure that I really spread the colours out so that I don't have the exact same colours really close or next to each other. Now, once I finish attaching all of these, I'm really liking the look of it, and I decide to go ahead and stitch around them. I'll tell you a funny story while I'm adhering all of this down. Honestly, it was one of those if you don't laugh, you'll cry moments, because my kids were outside playing, so I thought I'll bring this layout out with me and I'll do the stitching. While I was stitching it, my son came over to ask for something, and I was sitting on like an outdoor bench or an outdoor couch, and I put the layout down on top of a cushion, and just, I guess, with the small amount of movement, I don't know, but essentially my layout slid off the cushion and landed on the deck. Now, normally that would be fine. Your layout slides off, lands on the deck, you bend down, you pick it up, you go on your merry way. Could you believe it? My layout fell between the cracks in the wood planks of my deck down onto the ground underneath. And I was like, it's gone. That's it. This layout is done. I can't replicate it because I already cut all the best sentiments that I wanted to use. I don't know what I'm going to do. What am I going to do? Now, at my mum and dad's house, they have attached the decks with screws. So they just, if something like this was to happen as a disaster, they just get their screws out, undo a plank, reach in, grab what they need, and put their plank back on. Well, when our deck was made by the original owners of our home, they used a nail gun. So I'm like, I guess I could try and wedge up the plank, but is it worth it for a layout on a piece of paper? I don't know if it is. My photo wasn't adhered, but I can print that again anyway. It was literally just the background and the little cut bits of paper. So in the end, I decided to get some double-sided tape and attach that to the end of a knitting needle. And I pushed the knitting needle, the gaps between my planks, as you can guess already, are quite wide. They're probably wider than they need to be. And I could put the knitting needle in between the gaps. And then I pushed the knitting needle onto my layout. Because I'm like, you know what? If I put a hole in my layout, I'll see if I can fix that later. I'll cover it with a rhinestone, whatever. And then double-sided tape did adhere to the needle, did adhere to the paper, and I very slowly and carefully pulled it back up because I was so sure it was going to drop halfway up. It's not like it's that high off the ground, but it would be a foot. And I got it. Can you believe it? You can see the layout right now, but I cannot believe that I got it. So after I rescued my layout, I finished stitching just around a few random squares, which you can't even see, but you can in the close-up photos. And I also decided that I didn't like the neatness and the perfectness of each of the brick walls, the words, the sentiments. So I actually pulled them all off, distressed them all with my scissors, and then glued them all back down again. But I did that off camera because I figured you didn't need to see that. As you can see, I have put on my title because that's a whole nother story, which was probably more interesting than the one I just told you. But basically, Jack was so fascinated one morning before school because he said he could see a twinkle in his eye. And he just thought that was so special that he had a twinkle in his eye. And I was all for it. I was like, yeah, mate, you totally have a twinkle in your eye. You are a super special kid. So that was really nice. I'm keeping the embellishments on this layout. Back to what I'm actually doing. Super, super simple. Basically, the only embellishment cluster I am making is this one right here. I did fussy cut a couple of the gorgeous butterflies off the paper in the kit and a little flower that went with the butterflies. And I'm sticking those randomly around the page. And then, of course, some of the super cute Starburst enamels as well, just because they're cute and I like them. And that's it. I'm keeping this super, super simple. There's just so many colors and so many words going on with the sentiments. This is all that this layout needs, and I'm really happy with the way it came together. I think hand choosing all of the specific sentiments that I'm using also made a difference with this layout, because it just, to me, makes it feel that little bit more special, because I specifically chose ones that I think match the story, and I love it. I just love showering all the goodness on my Jacko. So yeah, so this is my layout. I hope I've inspired you to use that tricky page as well, because I know a sentiments page can be a little bit tricky. Thank you for listening to my ridiculous story, and I will see you all for one more layout next week. Bye, everyone.